I'm going to spend the next 60 minutes telling you everything that you need to know about OnlyFans, whether you are an agency or a creator or you just work in the industry. By the end of the 60 minutes, you are going to have a comprehensive understanding of every detail in every department for all types of businesses within the space. My name is Liam Turnbull, CEO here at TDM, and in the last 5 years, we've grown over 100 creators to the top 0.1%. Let's get into the source. Before we continue, if you're finding this video valuable and you want to get in on the discussion, then linked in the description is our free Telegram community, where we essentially discuss all things OFM, from client acquisition to traffic to chatting. Don't miss out on the opportunity. Back to the video. So I've got some notes in front of me and I am just going to sit back in my chair and I am going to explain a little bit about every department of this business. This is everything that I wish I had 5 years ago when we started TDM. So whether you are a 5K per month creator or whether you're a 500K per month agency, the details that we'll cover today will still apply to you, because we are going to be covering from the simple vertical of how to bring traffic, how to make the most out of every fan on the page, how to set up a company within the space. All of these apply to everyone. So first things first, we'll have a look at the boring stuff. So this is going to be things like company structure, banking, finance, all of that kind of thing. Now, of course, it depends where you are in the world. Every jurisdiction is totally different. So the way that you set up that's most efficient for you does depend on that. Of course, we understand the UK and the US systems the best. In any case, I would recommend some sort of limited entity. So a limited company here in the UK, an LTD, or an LLC in the US, or the equivalent in your jurisdiction, essentially detaching the liability and separating you from the company in the eyes of the law, so that you and that are different entities. This is to protect you, but it's also to allow for, in many cases, more efficiency from a taxation perspective. In many instances around the globe, it is more expensive to take a personal income and pay salary tax than it is to take dividends from a company, accounting for dividends tax and company tax. There have been a bunch of guys that we've spoken to over the years that have sort of just dismissed that whole, legal, financial, boring stuff to just say, I just want to know how to make to generate traffic. And I totally understand where that comes from. It makes complete sense, because the number one rule of business is money in. However, if you do start generating money and it's an absolute mess, with no clarity on where it came from in the eyes of the governing body that manages tax within your jurisdiction, you don't have accurate record keeping to comply with that jurisdiction, it suddenly starts to become a real pickle, and you just wish that you spent that extra couple of hours, couple of days, getting it right in the beginning. So I really entertain the idea of just get your company structure together. That will then make for a much, much easier time in step 2 with banking. So the most important thing with banking is to remember compliance is key. You want to be able to communicate effectively. You want them to understand exactly what you do, and you want to be able to be transparent. Banking in itself is a total minefield in the adult space, and even to this day, there is still not a clear solution on exactly how you should do it. Not just because of the interjurisdictional complications, but actually just because most of the banks don't make the parameters in which they want you to operate clear, and when they do, they move the goalpost to accommodate their risk allowances. So it makes it really, really tough to know where we stand with banks in the adult space. So the best thing for you to do if you're interested in establishing more of a structure for banking is to go and watch the video that's linked in the description, where we cover banking completely within the adult space. The short and sweet of it for now is have a bunch of banks, move the money around in a way that you understand, and keep record of absolutely everything for compliance. While we're on the boring stuff of finance and banking, it also makes sense to address the legalities behind this industry, so namely contracts, policies, etc. Now, contracts in themselves have become a lot easier over the last number of years, because ChatGPT and others have made it incredibly easy to come up with something in a matter of 5-10 minutes. You can have a pretty suffice contract nowadays with the click of a finger on any sort of AI platform that will give you a contract. The difficulty with this is that them understanding exactly what you want to achieve is unlikely. And despite the prompt, despite how good you are at using AI, the chances of them building a genuinely bulletproof contract that suit you and your business absolutely is slim. So my advice is still to go and contact a professional contract lawyer and have an actual conversation with them. Help them to understand your objectives, your services, what you do, how you provide value, what people pay you for, and what you think you want to protect against. Say, this is where I'm at, this is what I've got, what do you think of it? And when they understand your business, they'll just give you those final little touches to help you make sure they are completely bulletproof. Generally speaking, if you treat people with respect, you remember that it is the creator's body, the creator's account, they own the content, they own the accounts, despite what you might think and despite the way you've set your agreements up and you operate within the parameters of the terms of service on the platforms that you use, you are probably going to be totally fine. We operate within the parameters of the law and the agreements that we've signed. So as a result, we are having a pretty easy ride from a legal perspective, and everybody watching this can too. So it seems silly for you to skip this step, which is what so many people do. But with that said, I don't want you to get too caught up, because a lot of this complicated stuff can run away and can start consuming weeks and weeks of your time. You can start spending tens and tens of thousands of dollars. It doesn't need to be that complicated. A quick look over your legals and a bit of an understanding on how to set up the banking structure from the video in the description, and you will be good to go. Get into the business. The next thing to take a look at would be the recruitment side of your business. So team is everything, okay? And you are not going to compete with big agencies like TDM and similar by yourself. You are going to need a team at some point. Now that team will be account managers, chatting team, etc. But it will also be people that just help the cogs turn within the business. There are as many people here at TDM in other departments as there are in departments that run the OnlyFans accounts that generate the revenue. So the kind of people I'm talking about are media, marketing, websites and technology, finance, admin, all of these things that we don't necessarily look at the surface when we think about an OnlyFans agency, that actually help the cogs turn to a point where these people that are within the business can literally just focus on churning more revenue from more creators, adding more value every day. But recruitment does stem broader and wider than just your own team, of course. You know, in this industry, recruiting creators is a big part of how we grow. So we have to have a think about what stands us out in the market. And there are so many different ways to do this. There are two key ways that I want to make a point about today, which is the idea of proof and offer. Now, proof is essentially how good are you at what you do and why should somebody come and use your service. So you can show statements and screenshots of how good you are, but this is very easy to copy and people have been manipulating results for the last number of years. So this isn't very effective. The next way might be to prove how good you are on YouTube or on live videos or sharing case studies, which I think is the next step up and it's even better. Or the next step after that would be to do a little bit of both. You know, take a video, again, linked in the description, like this one on the screen, where I sat with one of our creators, Hattie James, and we went through exactly how we've added value to her page over the last number of years. She joined us at $0 pretty much, I think like $1,000 or $2,000 per month. And fast forward, she's now a multiple six-figure page. So the ability to take a page from there to there is what we showed in that video, but it was also from the creator's perspective. You know, so we doubled down on proof. We gave you proof that we're amazing to work with, proof that we're good at what we do, and proof that it's actually real and it's actually us who are displaying these results. The vast majority of people who share screenshots, etc., it's not them. You know, you and I both know that. So I think that is one of the most important things to get right when it comes to proving who you are and how good you are at what you do. If you don't have any proof, then your offer is your proof. And so we have to think about how strong that offer is. Now, an offer is essentially just your way of telling somebody how good you are at what you can do, but in the proposal sense. So rather than telling them what you've done over the last number of years, or for their friend Katie, or for this person that is in the case study, you're just telling them what you're proposing that you'll do for them. So the consensus here is the same, only there isn't any real proof to back it up. So it is merely a supposed thing that might occur. So we want to give them genuine conviction that it's likely to occur. Or we want to make it a no-brainer so that it's worth taking the risk anyway. My example for how we should do this is to try and get some sort of proof in advance, because any offer is going to be better if there is something of substance within it. If I said to you, hey, hit the link in the description for a video that you might like, you're probably not that interested. Whereas if I was like, hey, there's a video in the description that answers the question that you've just asked me that I know you are desperate to find out, and look, here's the proof, it's in there, you are way more likely to go and check it out. So let's try and think about the way that we can do that with creators. What do they want? Well, most of them are desperate for traffic. Most of them want to be treated with respect. Most of them want to have complete control and zero risk. Okay. Well, how can we do that? If we've got no proof, we probably need more creators. We're probably desperate for growth ourselves. So what about if we said, hey, I'll work with you for free. All you need to do is provide me a tracking link so that I can benefit from seeing how good I am at what I do and so that I can share the results with others. It's a no-brainer for the creator. They get additional traffic at no cost and no risk because you don't even need access to the account. You are quite literally able to just work on a tracking link. If you're more confident in what you do and you don't have the financial stability to be able to go out and offer your work out for free, then why not say, hey, can I have a tracking link and would you be happy to compensate me 20% of the traffic that I bring? The reason why this is easy for them to accept is because it's all extra anyway. You know, they could give you 90% of the tracking link if this is just a creator. They could give you 90% of the tracking link and still make profit on the transaction because it's all supplementary. But look, go in with something reasonable, ask for 20%. You know, if you're good at what you do, this is still a relatively good sum of money. And the best part about it is, pick your candidates wisely. You don't have to go and pick somebody who doesn't naturally convert very well anyway. Imagine if I said to you, try and drive some traffic to Sophie Rain, and you get 20%. I would accept that. It's a walk in the park. You just say her name and people will subscribe. So how easy is it if we are able to bring in traffic without even having to do the work ourselves? It's literally free money. So in that instance, I would be trying to get into the DMs of as many big creators as I possibly can, and I will be just laying down no-brainer offers. Hey, I'll bring you traffic for free. Hey, I'll bring you traffic for 20%. Because once you've done that and you've learnt the ropes and you've figured out what you're doing, you can then go over to creator B over here and say, hey, look, I just gave Sophie Rain 1,000 subs. I just gave Sky Brie 100 subs. I just worked with Bella Thorne, or whatever the example is of what you did at the time. Is there any chance that they are going to say no to that? Probably not. In fact, most creators are probably going to want to work with you just because of the flex that you drove that much traffic to that person, even though you probably only accounted for 10% of the work because they bring in their own subs because of who they are. So this is going to be a little bit of a secret for you if you're new to OnlyFans, you don't have any proof and you're looking to put together an offer to go to creators and pitch your services. Do that first because that is so much better as far as your offer goes. And from there, you're then signing creators left, right and center without any difficulty, and away you go. Or if you want to look at more of a traditional recruitment sense, then let's think about referrals. Let's think about outreach. Okay, let's start with referrals. Referrals are a very common strategy. Lots of people talk about referrals and they're all saying that referrals are the way, they're the key, right? But they don't quite understand what referrals actually mean. They presume that that is just, you know, asking for a creator to send other creators. But actually, I think a referral scheme can be something that you build on. It can be quite a powerful, widespread network, and it doesn't just need to be creators. The vast majority of people that refer to TDM are not creators. They are influencers, they are club owners, they are celebrities, you know, they are people who are walking the streets of life with no tie to OnlyFans necessarily, and as a result they're not seen to be pitching, but they just make harmless introductions left, right and center. The kind of people that we have on our schemes are people that just float around life. You know, they're in Asia, they're in Dubai, they're in London, they're in Miami, they're in Los Angeles. They're just literally floating through life, party to party, networking event to networking event, beach club to nightclub. They are quite literally just enjoying their life, and as a result are landing places where things are very positive and fun and all happy introductions, you know, and all of a sudden, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 introductions happen, 2 of which we sign. That the referrer is now making a good chunk of money. They can continue to live that life in higher echelons of society, and as a result are able to continue to double down on better and better and better creators. And before you know it, first of all, you made someone a millionaire. But secondly, they made you a multimillionaire because they brought you 100 different leads, of which you signed 10 great creators. This is a very real scenario if you set the referral schemes up correctly. So think broader, wider, and bigger picture than just how do I ask creator A to refer me to creator B? Because that is the very simplest example of referral schemes. Think about it like this. Don't work out how to get more creators. Work out how to find more people who will find you more creators. That's the real source in referrals. And don't be afraid to compensate, because if you compensate better, you incentivize the next one. If you compensate poorly, you damage the likelihood of the next one. And you benefit from this at scale, not on an individual basis. That's referrals. The next one is outreach. Outreach is nice and easy. I think outreach is something that everybody should do. You know, it's harmless and easy. It doesn't cost you very much money. In fact, it virtually costs nothing. You know, we can work out for what it costs you. It probably costs you the equivalent of one signing per year based on the average agency's LTV with the creator to run it year round. In other words, if you ran a VA on your Instagram outreaching to creators every single day and you signed one creator per year, based on what your LTV should be, I would imagine that that's break even, if not profit. Meaning that the chances you make profit on doing this at scale, all you have to do is sign more than one per year. I think that you'll probably do that. So outreach on Instagram is something that I would do on as many accounts as possible. I would be constantly split testing different ways of structuring your outreach. You know, if we rewind 4 years, the way that I used to outreach to creators was totally different to the way that I outreach now. And in fact, even now, you know, 4 years in or whatever the hell I am, I'm still split testing bi-weekly, you know, which way that I'm going to outreach to these new creators. And I'm still working on the list, working on new people. I've pretty much DM'd every single OnlyFans creator at this point. So I'm working on my second or third message to them at this point, which is a little bit trickier if they've blanked you once, or a lot of them don't actually let you message again. So I'm in a bit of a sticky situation, but for a lot of you guys watching this, that's not going to be the case. And you can also, providing the creators are happy with you doing this and you've got consent, then by all means do it on their behalf too. You know, they could reach out to other creators. That's totally fine. It's not a problem. And as long as they're happy for it and they're commissioned on it, everybody's happy. The next and probably most creative way that we recruit is very outside the box. So one of the statements that I said earlier that you should remember and you should make note of this is, do not look for creators, look for people who can find you creators. You know, that is kind of like our premise for recruitment. Now, one of the ways that I can evidence this is in 2023, we threw a Christmas party here at the office. Now, for those of you who have followed on the socials, you will have seen the Christmas party. It was amazing. In fact, we've had it for 2023 and 2024. We bring famous DJs, we bring dancers, we bring all sorts of people. And one of the things that we decided to do is think about who can we bring that will help us sign creators. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, you know, how they probably just throw a party for the fun of it. Well, yes, that's totally what we do, but we try and think about double purpose. We try and think about who can we actually bring that will make the party better, but potentially work with us in the future on referral arrangements. So in 2023, we brought a number of dwarfs to the event. The reason being that we already knew them through mutual friends. We saw that they were collaborating with all sorts of OnlyFans creators, both other dwarfs and, you know, giantesses and other stuff that we were interested in because we're niche focused. And we thought, hey, they'll be great fun at the party. You know, they are used to going to parties and I suppose performing and having fun, right? That's part of their service. That's what they offer. That's a genuine service that they offer, like attending parties and having fun. And they dress up and, you know, it is genuinely good fun having them around. We also happen to know these guys. So we invited them and said, hey, look, come by the party. It'll be good fun. We'll cover your time as though it was any normal event, but we also want to have a chat with you about future business. They landed and we had a great night, but we also spoke to them about introductions, referrals. You know, the idea that they could make a good sum of money by introducing us to others that would maybe benefit from our service. And they did, you know, and they introduced us to other dwarfs, giantesses. In fact, we went on and signed a handful of these that actually made an absolute killing. Like, I'm talking multiple six-figure creators within our agency that we would otherwise not have found. But by making friends with the middle party, we were able to get in touch, explain our value add, and in, you know, a super genuine way, make friends with the creator and later sign them. It wasn't super stand up like, you know, hey, we're TDM and this is what we do. It wasn't stiff. It was natural. It was a natural interaction based on a mutual party connecting us. And these things, they just go down so much better. So If you think about ways that you can get creative, other examples would be like, do you know any accountants that also happen to work with OnlyFans creators? Do you know wealth managers? Do you know beach club owners? Do you know nightclub owners? Do you know fashion brand owners? Do you know photographers? Think outside the box, people that you may be able to and put you in touch with these creators. That is ultimately how you recruit and refer different creators in a more abstract and intuitive way to your agency. That kind of covers how to get more creators. But before we move on, there is one thing that we just need to stress, because more creators does not directly correlate to more money. Okay, that needs to be made crystal clear, because I don't know where this misconception has come about, but it definitely has, that more creators is more money, because people will do anything and everything to just simply sign more creators, and they presume that a signing is correlated to their success, and it's seen as a celebration, it's seen as a positive, bringing on more clients. And I understand where that comes from, because in a lot of businesses that's the way that it is. So there is, I suppose, a genuine reason why it may feel like that, but in actual fact in this industry there is no reason to celebrate, because more creators do not correlate to more money in any way. I know a handful of guys in this space that are multi-millionaires in cash that quite literally have 1, 2, or 3 creators. In fact, I know loads of agencies that boast about the number of creators that they have, but fundamentally are broke as hell, because with more creators comes more responsibility. It comes more CRM bills, more accounts, more hardware, more software, more staff. All of the costs that you incur as an agency increase with more creators, because you need more instances. Even if it's as simple as like an additional inflow profile, an additional anti-dolphin profile, these all have costs. And then there's an additional device or additional router or SIM card or whatever it might be. The additional costs quickly accumulate, and you can really start to harm your profit margin. Whereas if you only have a handful of creators, our costs are much more streamlined. There's only a handful of any of these given costs. The downside to it is, of course, risk, but that's where you have to grab your agency by the balls and work out where you want it to sit, because you either err on the side of caution, more horizontally scaled, more accounts, less risk, or you err on the side of risk where you have less creators, they are more vertically scaled, you are on better margins, but you could lose a vast chunk of your revenue and therefore profit much, much easier. Pick your poison. We like to sit in the middle. But fundamentally what I'm getting at is that you should pick creators that you know that you can actually add value to. And that is something that you need to work out what is, because there are a million different things that might be. It might be based on their location. It might be based on what hardware they have. Lots of agencies require iPhone 12, and if you don't have it, it doesn't work. Lots of agencies require that you're skinny and look like you're 50, and then if it doesn't work, they're not interested, right? Lots of agencies make these sort of rules up for what their creators must comply with. And the reason for that isn't because they're being arseholes, it's because they know how to add value. They know that if you don't look jailbait, then the strategy that they use will not work. Now, you might think that that's weird or it's sickening, and that's fine because that's your opinion. But for them, my argument would be, well, at least they know how to add value, and at least they know what they're looking at as far as, does that creator genuinely work? Does that creator genuinely benefit from being here, or would it be better for them to move on? If you ask me, that's just honest business. Our instance is that if you're not niched or branded, well, we're not interested, because we don't know how to work with people that aren't niched or branded, because we feel that fundamentally it is the most important thing that helps you grow. And so if you aren't currently niched, or you aren't currently well branded, and you aren't open to discovering that, then sorry, but TDM can't help you. Unless you make 100 grand a month, because any agency would take on a creator that makes enough revenue, because you can find a way to make it work if there is that much revenue on the line. So that's something you need to think about. Who do you want to work with? Where do they need to be located? What languages do they need to speak? What hardware do they need? What ideas do they need to be open to? Understand what that looks like, so that you can take creators on that genuinely add value. Because if you take on, excuse my French, but loads of shit, then you are going to really struggle, because you probably won't add any value. Your margins will suck. The creators won't enjoy the service. Your reputation will suffer. And it's just a long, dark road down to market efficiency, where you charge 20% and nobody even wants the service, and you're outreaching and nobody's interested. And it's all just a bit of a difficult place to be honest. It's not the one. So once you know what you actually want, you know how to add value, you know who you're after, you can use some of the things that we just discovered in recruitment side of this video, and you can go ham. Then you're going to start bringing creators on. So as I mentioned, in our view, it is essential that a creator is open to some sort of niching and branding of who they are. Now, the reason for this is because if we think about it on a scale, right, over here we've got like super generic, girl next door, MILF, bikini, hot, like all this sort of stuff, where nobody really has any overwhelming crazy fetish for it, but everybody kind of likes it to an extent. It's too generic for anybody to really have any genuine conviction that they absolutely must subscribe to this creator. Whereas over this side, we've got, something super specific, like my reference would be something like sploshing. Okay, sploshing, for anyone who doesn't know, is like playing with food and bathing in it and all this sort of stuff. This is like way too specific because there is only a handful of people, albeit they will absolutely love it and buy everything that you've got. The difficulty is trying to get into that specific niche because finding them on social media algorithms isn't exactly easy, but even if you do it, there just simply isn't enough of them for you to grow a genuinely big page. So the kind of thing that I'm referencing are more fetish and interesting stuff. The kind of things that have worked over the last number of years are trans, okay? Because it's super specific and some guys genuinely love it, but most people are at the very least curious about why that really hot girl has a bulge, okay? Whether you admit it or not. And then next might be fitness girl. Some guys are absolutely obsessed with muscle or with gym leggings, but most guys like a girl who's in shape who hits the gym. We could go on for literally hours with different examples of niches that suit both and sit in the middle. And no surprise, the biggest creators on the platform typically tend to align with these niches. Okay, our biggest creators are femboys, trans, fitness, goths, gamers, e-girls, cosplays, things that are a little bit of both. If you're in the position where you're chatting to creators that you've already signed, or you're on the sales call where you're proposing a little bit of a plan on what you guys are going to do together when you start working together, the most important thing is to think about what this looks like long term. And if they don't currently have that niche or the brand, which we'll come on to in a minute, established, then you've got to start trying to figure out who they are. Before we get on to how to do it, let me cover the difference between niche and brand. Niche is who you choose to identify with or as a part of or appeal to. It's essentially like a subsection of the market. So it would be like fitness girl, it would be, so like fitness would be the niche there, it might be trans, it would be cosplay, it would be giantess, like these are examples of the niches, the subsections of the market that you are either hereditarily assigned to, or you have made a decision that has opted you in without maybe choosing to be, or you've decided this is who you are. In any case, that is what a niche is. A brand is a little bit more about who you are beneath that. So like, okay, you might be the fitness girl, but who actually are you as a person? So if we use Hattie as an example, again, as we did earlier in this video, because we did the video with her in the description, she's a fitness girl by niche, but she's this ex-police officer who's gone on the journey of, making her own money and being her true self. And her personality, the fact that she talks a lot and she shares this journey, that's who she is from a branding perspective. Or, my other example would be, let's use more famous creators. So Jelly Bean, Jamila Smith, right? So she is essentially just a Latina. She's super short, she's cute, she's got good assets, but fundamentally she's just a Latina, right? So her niche isn't really anything wild, but she's branded as this girl who beats up Lamborghinis, runs up, cracks the windscreen, etc., has this SVJ and, graffitis it or whatever else, and you're kind of thinking, well, that's absolutely wild. That's the power of brand. Well, my argument for how I know this is true is that if I speak to creators or even agencies or guys who I consult with or anybody, and I say to them, have you heard of Jamila Smith? They often say no. But then I say, what about the girl who jumps up and down on the Lamborghinis? They go, oh shit, yeah, I've seen that girl. So that's proof that brand is rememberable, which is the whole point of marketing, be rememberable, have a brand. So we know that that is the difference, and we know that the niche and the brand are different things. Another example would be Sophie Rain. Again, her niche, well, she's a bop house girl, so she's a Latina, she's a virgin, she's cute, she's hot, she's thick, she's all these sort of things, but nobody really is obsessed with Sophie Rain or has heard of Sophie Rain because of any of those things. Her brand is her name, okay? And the team behind Sophie Rain have spent millions of dollars pumping into her name. So Sophie Rain is that girl. Now I really get the Sophie Rain hype. Have you seen the Sophie Rain cosplay or whatever? That is an example of a brand. Her brand is her name. So people have put a lot of energy and effort into creating this name associated with her, which is why a lot of people have heard the name without seeing her content. So they're the difference between niche and brand. Now, if you don't know how to go about doing this with your creator, the easiest way is to just have a genuinely open-ended conversation, very relaxed setting with them, and just ask them about who they are as a person. What are your hobbies? What are your interests? Have you got any unique talents? What are you good at? What are you passionate about? What do you do for fun? These are the kind of questions that I'm going to be asking to try and determine that brand and therefore what niche we're going to sit within. Because if they come back and say, I love baking and I love like gothic makeup, okay, well, they don't really align. They're also, very just sort of like weird and wonderful parts of that person's personality. They don't really give us any immediate clarity on like who this person is in the eyes of the content. But what I take from that is, okay, so we've got something that they can do and we've got a way that they can look. So she could be, like this baking girl. That's the niche, but the gothic makeup could be done in a way where we can build a brand out of that. So I'm starting to see like niche and brand now. And I'm also thinking about what the content verticals might look like. So what about if we're just producing daily content where, we want to try and bring a bit of a series to it so that they come back. So day 1 of baking every cupcake in the world, day 2 of baking every cupcake in the world, day 3 of baking every cupcake in the world. And that's the series of daily content, but here we go, now we're getting somewhere. But every day we're dressed in this incredibly strong gothic makeup, and maybe it changes day to day. Maybe we dress a little bit like the cupcake. Maybe we use things like Batman and Robin, and we dress up as Batman and we make a Robin cupcake. God damn it, I'm cooking. This is how we get the brand niche across, and we can start to think about what the content verticals would look like. So in a matter of 30 seconds, live on camera, you just watch me think about the niche, who the brand is behind the niche, and what the content would look like as a result. That's the very source that I think people don't have in OnlyFans management. And as a creator, if you're watching this, then I hope that this is something that you can take away from this video, because the most difficult part about content is thinking about how it aligns with both the brand, the niche, the platform, which we'll come on to later, and the content vertical. They're kind of like step 1, 2, 3, 4 that's mandatory to do for all pieces of content. So I suppose that's pretty much it for like niche and brand. And I think by this point, we should now have a bit of an idea on like how to go out and find as many creators as possible, how to have some more interesting ways of signing them, how to bring them in and set them up correctly. So the next thing we're going to do is have a look at platforms, because as I mentioned, there are these verticals that we need to address, ideally in order, where we agree on the niche. So who is the target market? What subsection of the markets are we going to sit within? We've agreed on the brand. We know who this creator is and how we're showing personality. But then we'll also think they make sense on YouTube Shorts potentially, on TikTok potentially, on X potentially. We know where we would otherwise go if we need to increase the total output, but we know where we should start. If we were going to do vintage bondage, then we know that we need to probably head on to something like FetLife. If we're going to stream COD Black Ops 2, then we know we probably want to go and do YouTube or Twitch. Or if we've got huge melons and we want to show them off, then we're going to go onto Reddit. We're going to probably do some stuff on X, and we're not going to do a whole lot unless we're willing to do reels on, Instagram and short form content, right? So we can get a bit of an idea where we start off. Okay, so look, let's use the big melons thing again. Of course, we're going to go on and do other platforms because there are a million different ways to advertise if the brand and niche are correct based on that. However, it's just a non-negotiable that Reddit is done if you have big boobs, right? It's really that simple, and that's where we started. So let's have a look through different platforms and what kind of content is rewarded and how we would go about it. Now, I was debating going through every single platform here, but that will add a good hour to this video, and we don't have time. I'm going to link in the description an all-in-one marketing guide. It's totally free. There is no upsells. This is a video that I've done in a similar fashion where I just sat back and just talked about every individual platform, how to set up, what devices / hardware we need for it, what software we need for it, how to post, what to post, when to post, every detail for every platform in one video. just go and check that out. That's going to be the easiest way to consume value on platforms for marketing. And we'll also cover a little bit on the funnels as well. And I think that's important at the moment because funnels suck right now. In any case, the most important thing from a bird's eye is just to make sure that you are favoring the right platform for the creator in question, because that's probably the easiest mistake to make. Your creator is branded and niched correctly, but you're doing the wrong content verticals on the wrong platform. It's a surefire way to just make your own life harder and limit your own potential for really no less workload than if you were to do it right. Okay, so let's presume that we've brought in absolutely loads of traffic because you guys have absolutely nailed everything we just discussed. You have an amazing niche, you've branded incredibly well, you've picked the right platforms, you're producing the right content, which is easy when you go and watch the video if you haven't already. Now we need to have a think about chat. So what does it look like when we actually get onto the page? Now, one of the first things I want to do is draw attention to a couple of metrics that I noted down here that I think make this a much easier process, which just help you right off the bat from a bird's eye understand how good you are at this. And that is goated figure here is RPV, revenue per visitor. You might be thinking, well, surely LTV, surely chat ratio. Let's get into it. RPV is the only way that you can track the entire end-to-end chat side of your business, or at least account management side of your business. How much money do we make per viewer? Why viewer, not subscriber? Well, what I don't understand is how many people choose to just ignore that part of your funnel, right? We work really hard generating views, really hard engaging them, really hard getting them to click on your bio, potentially even click on OnlyFans. And then they click on OnlyFans and we just ignore that bit, and then we start working on the chat side from like how many people subscribed, okay, how much did we make per subscriber? We never look at how many people view the page to how many people subscribe to the page. But why? It's, you know, just as important part of the funnel as any other. Because if you increase your view to subscribe conversion ratio by 50%, you double your revenue. Now, I'm not suggesting you're going to do that. It's a big ask, but just think about it. You only have to increase it by 10% on a big page to make an absolute killing and buy yourself another supercar. What do we do? How do we do this? Well, there's a million different ways to increase that specific conversion rate, whether it be the bio and the way that you write it, the profile picture and cover photo, the little green ring around it, yes or no, available now, yes or no, bundles, subscription prices, the copy attached to the bundle or subscription price, the discounts that you offer. You know, all of these things do have an impact, even whether you've got social buttons, websites, links that distract people and leave them walking away from the page rather than subscribing. All of these things will have an impact on that conversion. So the very first thing is to address that. Get that right, increase your conversion as much as possible. But where RPV is nice is that it doesn't just track profile conversion, but it actually goes on and it tracks the whole end-to-end process of how many people did we convert and spend, and not just how many people, how much did we make from everybody, including that profile conversion. So it addresses what you made per viewer rather than per subscriber. So this is the goated metric. This is the metric that you should look at. And from there, you can individually start to break it down. If your RPV sucks, okay, is it because people don't spend enough money when they've subscribed? In other words, LTV sucks. Or is it just that your LTV is good, but you don't bring in enough people because the profile doesn't convert, in which case your profile conversion sucks. But in any case, you know where to attend to. You know what part of the business needs the most work. My view is each account manager should be responsible for both the LTV and the profile conversion, and therefore the RPV of the pages that they manage. Within our groups here at TDM, the account managers are responsible for all of those metrics. It is a success manager's job to bring the traffic in up to the point where they are on the OnlyFans page. So we're even tracking on their side the conversion between the bio link through to the OnlyFans page. Once we're there, that then is when we offload that responsibility to the account manager. So from that conversion to the OnlyFans page onwards, it is the responsibility of the account manager to increase that conversion rate. What does this mean then? So we now know how to track from a bird's eye what we're looking at, and I want to quickly debunk why chat ratios are not something that we would look at, and I'll use a simple analogy for that. The difficulty with chatting ratios is that they're only effective, in fact they're only possible on a paid page where we have the subscription prices, subscription revenue on the actual statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out how much we made per dollar of subscription revenue. And if we made $5 of subscription revenue and we made $15 in message and tip revenue, that in the eyes of someone using a chat ratio would be a 1 to 3, where this is flawed. Imagine we did $1,000 in new subscription revenue and we did $10,000 in messages and tips. That's a 1 to 10, okay? People would say that's pretty good. Now imagine that the chat team that were responsible for that 1 to 10, they started engaging with people on the page and encouraging them to tick their renew on. So keep subscription on month to month. That means that the $1,000 in new subscription revenue has also been topped up with another $1,000 in renew revenue. So now our totals are $2,000 in subscription revenue and $10,000 in messages and tips. We're now at a 1 to 5, meaning that in the eyes of the chatting ratio, your chat team's ability just dropped by half, and you are half as effective at that job. But in fact, they just attributed an additional $1,000 and decreased the churn and increased the renew of your very subscribers. So they added value at the expense of their own KPI. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. It's completely stupid. So chat ratios suck. There is no utility for them in this business model, and they should be completely wiped. Instead, we should simply measure things like LTV, profile conversion, things that actually correlate linearly and increase to our agency's total earnings. If that KPI increases, we make more money. Period. There is no negotiation. That is what I like about those metrics. On that note, I would also look at churn. Not enough people address their churn, and in fact, many people don't even know how long people stick around. This actually goes back to, even earlier in the video where we looked at your agency as a whole. Churn is twofold. How long does each subscriber stay on each page? How long does each creator stay within your agency? Pro tip, track churn. It's essential that the team are 24 hours per day. I will not hear that it is more effective for them to be available for just 18 hours because it's more realistic, because that's not the case. We know for a fact that if you're awake 24 hours a day, but they sleep for 8, and you're awake when they wake up, and you're awake when they go to sleep, they will probably just presume that you slept when they slept. This is what people will presume. Nobody thinks about this. Do you think about it on Instagram DMs? Do you think about it on emails? Do you think about it anywhere? Nobody thinks about this. So why would they suddenly start thinking about it just because you know what actually goes on? They wouldn't. Okay, so that's not an important thing here. 24/7 account management is essential, and I don't think that's up for debate. I also think that a proper team would be adaptable to not just how to make more money, but how to manage the emotions of the people that are on the page. It is morally unacceptable to take money off somebody who doesn't want to spend it. Again, in my view, non-negotiable. Now, only you can decide what's acceptable and what's not. Here at TDM, we choose to have a bit of a moral code with the way that we manage pages. We choose to take in the interest of the subscriber. We choose to ensure that they only have as much fun as they genuinely want to have. They only spend as much as they genuinely want to spend. They only unlock videos that they genuinely wanted to unlock. That's what we choose to do. But that's up to us. What you choose to do is up to you. My argument for this is that we actually increase our renew and we decrease our churn so much by accommodating this that we probably make more money whilst also being better people and doing better at keeping people around. So I would really think about the long term with the way that you treat your subscribers. How do we genuinely increase the experience, not just how do we take more money on day one? The easiest way to increase your total productivity with this side of the business is to have a CRM. Our choice is Inflow. That's not to say that others don't have utility or aren't any good. We have just always chosen to use Inflow. We have a great relationship. We think the platform is fantastic. It's our preference. It's not the only option, it's just our preference. But in any case, I think a CRM is essential, so I would definitely get yourself onto one. Don't get too caught up with this side of the business though, because I see it way too often that the majority of the pitch to the creator is about your chat team and how much money you make. The majority of your focus is about increasing LTV or the way that you chat. A lot of this is just really surface level bullshit. It doesn't really mean anything. You have the same service that everybody else has, but you choose to use it as a primary selling point and focus, when in actual fact it doesn't really move the needle, because if you've got a page with no traffic, you're still going to make no money whether you've got a great strategy or not. So I would really eliminate any focus on this side of the business until you've really got traffic upon traffic and just complete abundance on the marketing side. Only at that point is it really worth you investing the necessary time to refine the strategy and increase LTV. So chatting should absolutely be second to that of traffic. Everything we discussed earlier is way more important and should be the focus, even for the creators. So don't get them to sit there producing script on script on script, custom after custom after custom, because although it's making money, and if the customs are well priced, I could kind of accept it, it doesn't really help the page grow long term. It just increases the money that we made this month by a little bit. But my question to you is, if you've only got so many units of effort from a creator every week, how are you going to use them? Because if you use them all up by just peppering them with scripts and customs and this sort of stuff, the page is only ever going to continue at that rate. It's never going to really increase, because you can't grow a page off a custom, you can't grow a page off a script, but you can grow a page from traffic. So my question to you would be, could you repurpose that time? And I think if we went back and forth, you'd probably end up agreeing that they probably could. So I would really think about a way to, maximize the efforts on the traffic, and only in additional time where it really makes sense to do so, would you focus your own and their time on this side of the business. So next I want to have a look at some of the ancillary stuff that kind of sits around chat and marketing that really just help the cogs turn, as I mentioned right at the start of this video. There are so many different departments here at TDM that people just wouldn't even begin to fathom, like, why we have these people. From legal and financial audit, to admin, to media, to websites, to technology, to SEO, to coding, but even to things like architecture. Why does TDM have an architect? Well, with where we're at, the scale that we're at, the fact that we're building offices, building gyms, for our team, that's an essential part of our business. And so, especially when you begin to scale, the ancillary parts of the agency or business or whatever you want to call it suddenly start to hold a lot of weight and become really, really important. And so I want to draw attention to the value in which you can benefit from if you get that right early on. If you are watching this video and you are a creator or an agency, then you have a reason to benefit from support. Done. There is no negotiation in my view. Because whatever you think that you're onto, you'll be far better at executing on if you've got more time. And anybody watching this video would benefit from a PA. I am as close as I can be to certain in saying that without even knowing who you are watching this, that you will benefit from a PA. PA will allow you to simply just buy back your time, and it will bring more of the time that you wish you had into reality, because nobody's business grows when they sit there and talk to insurance companies, or they go shopping for birthday cards, or they go food shopping, or they start cooking, or they start sitting on hold to I don't even want to know where, right? This is the reality of what people's lives look like. We're all very busy and we all deal with a lot of shit. But I know right now, if I didn't have my team of assistants, I would be absolutely nowhere as effective and productive as I am today, because I don't waste a single minute unless I choose to waste it. If I choose to do something dumb, or I choose to go and have fun, or I choose to do something stupid, or I choose to play a game of FIFA with one of the lads, then that's on me, right? But it's not time that I lost when I was desperate for it back. That's me choosing to repurpose time that I happen to have free within my calendar, which is a totally separate thing, and it's good for the mind to do that. But where I would not be happy, and where this would really hold me back, is if that very time that I wasn't working, I really needed to be, but I couldn't be because I had to do some sort of bullshit like go and get food from the shop, bring it home, unpackage it, and start cooking it and whatever else, right? So the fact that I don't have to do any of this does make me more productive. But what's really interesting is I have laid this out on the table to a plethora of guys and gals over the last couple of years that have directly come back to me and said, this was amazing. This was the biggest thing that moved the ball for me and my business. And it's not just OnlyFans agencies. You know, I've sent this into our verified groups. I've sent voice notes about this before, and agency owners have come back and said, like, this was single-handedly the biggest thing that moved the agency forward, because I had enough time to innovate new ways of driving traffic, innovate new ways of bringing creators in. And off the back of that, the growth within their agency was huge. So don't overestimate the value of getting rid of lots of small things, because the accumulation of tiny things is the damage of the big thing. Okay, so I also see this with the lads that work here in the office, and the girls, mainly the lads, because they distract each other. They will kind of sit there, and there are lots of little things that are going on. You know, there might be an event on the TV, or they might want to go and get a sandwich from the shop, or they might want to engage in a fantasy football league, or they might want to share a meme on Instagram, or whatever the tiny thing is. But lots and lots of these tiny things start to accumulate to then a whole table of people not doing enough work within that given time frame. But also on a personal level, the amount of times that I've caught them all on the phone to insurance, going to prep their own meals, doing things that eat away at their time, that if they were in a position where they really wanted to grow in the business, or if they were in their own business, that would hold them back. I spent a good bit of time on that, but I'm quite glad that I did, because I really want you to take away the value of having your own time. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have, because you can never replace it. So keep as much of your time as you can, get as much of it back by repurposing your time and repurposing the bullshit that currently occupies it. And I promise you, hold me accountable, message me if I'm chatting shit. This will move the ball for you in your life and your business, period. So that's the first thing. But then also the power of team in general just allows things to fall into place. Okay, having our team has laid out so many opportunities for our business to grow over the years in all sorts of different verticals. You know, the fact that those guys over there will build an incredible site and they will, you know, go to town on the SEO means that we'll rank that little bit higher, that will bring creators in. Or those guys over there that will work on the phone farm will spend so much time innovating that part of our business that we are going viral more often than we can even say the word viral in that side of our business, which is indirectly bringing in traffic, which is then indirectly bringing in creators, because we're able to refer based on how happy the creators are with the results that that team are contributing to. You know, team is the most important thing, but it's also the reason why we all come to work. You know, we're all happy, we all attend, we all want to have a good day at the office because of the team that we have. In fact, the very people that have helped me set the video up to film today, the very people that will edit this video, the very people that will post this video that you're watching right now are in fact people that help grow this business, because one of you will watch this and one of you will DM me saying, hey Liam, I really like the video, and you know, my girlfriend is currently looking for an agency, or my friend is currently looking for an agency, or I want to refer, or I'm a creator and I want to sign with you. Business will directly benefit from that. Everything that goes on in this business and everything that we all come together to do every single day as a team is not only for the benefit of the business, but will also mean that we all have a better time here at work. The only thing to think about is how you hire in a way where you don't jeopardize the future of your own business. So you need to have a business that's vision is big enough to accommodate everybody's individual dreams, because you are kidding yourself if you think that people come to work for you. Nobody cares about you, they care about themselves. But it is your job to create an environment where they see themselves benefiting by being a part of what it is that you do. The way that I want you to look at it is, you don't have any employees, you have intrapreneurs. Okay, you have little business owners within your business. And providing that they can grow to achieve their dreams as a part of your company means that their vision will forever align with yours. If they can meet their financial criteria, if they can grow within your company to feel good about themselves, feel like they're on a good trajectory, they take enough money home, they live a good enough life, they have enough freedom, they make their own decisions. If all of the things that they desire are things that they can achieve within your company, their vision will align with you. And you will have their loyalty, you will have their genuine effort, they will absolutely care about your business because it's in their interest to. If you treat them like staff, you're an arsehole, you don't care about what they want, then they don't care about what you want. You know, and don't think that that just directly relates to money, because a lot of people are motivated by different things. Some people want to get better at what it is that they do and they want their skill set to get better. Some people want to make more money. Some people want a better work-life balance to spend time with their kids. Lots of people want lots of different things, and it is your job to make sure that they see their future with you because they're motivated by the things that you put in place for them to achieve. At the stage when you start to hire, you have to think about how to hire in a way where you protect the future of your business, not just by bringing people in that genuinely care about it, or by not allowing people to set up against it, not allowing people to set up against you. But really, that is going to summarize a lot of what I wanted to talk about today. The main premise of what I want to get across is that this is a business like any other, and the fact that we deal with, boob pictures and we work on the internet and we don't have a corporate body regulating us does not change the fact that we are a genuine, long-standing industry. We are genuine, legally compliant businesses that have a duty to uphold standards between ourselves, generate revenue like any other industry, declare it and benefit from the future that we can provide for ourselves. When you actually look at the fundamentals, nothing is different about this industry than any other. Only we sell different products to different people in different ways with different protections. So what that means is, for as long as you presume that you are in this unique loophole of an industry where you don't need to pay tax, you don't need to treat people with respect, you don't need to consider legalities, policies, procedures, structures, you are the one who is going to lose long term. You must treat this business like it is a legitimate stand-up business in any other industry, because it's exactly the same. There is no difference. And for as long as you do that, and for as long as you operate with genuine integrity, this is single-handedly the best industry that I have ever seen, where you will make infinite amounts of money if you take on the advice in this video. I hope you found it valuable. We'll see you in the next one.